Hi there guys, got a nice quick video here for you today. What we're going to be doing is taking a look at reducing the opening and the closing effort on the cocking arm of the Airmaks Katran. On my particular rifle, both with the stock I made and the original folding one, the cocking effort is a little stiff. It takes a bit of effort to pop the handle open, and then when you're loading a pellet it does take a little bit of force just to get the arm to close down properly. It's certainly not a big problem with the rifle, but it is an area that I would like to improve on. Luckily though, there's two fairly simple things we can do to make that feel a lot better. The first of these solutions is to quite simply move this block here back a little. On the top, underneath the scope, I don't know if the camera is going to pick that up, but in here there's two screws, and if we loosen them two off, what you should be able to do then with the screws loose is pull the buttstock back a little. What that'll do is move the pivot point of the cocking arm a little further back, and because the pellet probe squashes up on a little O-ring, it should reduce the pressure on that O-ring. Once you've pulled the buttstock back a little, you can go ahead and retighten the screws, and hopefully that should relieve a little bit of the pressure on the opening and the closing force of the cocking arm. I did that with my rifle and it's still a little stiff. You can flick it open nicely with one hand, but it's just a little stiff for my taste. So the second solution is to actually replace the O-ring that's in the block with a smaller one. To get to the O-ring inside the block, what we're going to need to do is take this little cover plate off. And to do that we're going to need to remove the 5 screws on this side of the rifle. Now on my rifle I've replaced these screws, the Torx ones that it normally comes with just Allen head bolts. And I'm going to be using a 2mm Allen key to remove them, although your rifle you'll probably need a T10. With all the screws removed, we can remove the plate. Now to do this is a little tricky, as the plate itself is actually fairly tight on this little pin in the corner here. So to remove it we need to give it a little bit of a wiggle. What I use for this job is just a little plastic O-ring pick. As I said before, these things are useless for O-rings but quite handy in applications like this where we don't want to damage any of the aluminium metalwork. What I like to do, go in at the top there, just pry it up nice and gently, and then using the pick, come in at the corner there and just give the plate itself a little wiggle. Every now and again pushing this side of the plate down and then pulling it back up again. And there we have it, there's the plate removed. So a little fiddly, but it does come off eventually. So we can stick this to one side. And I'll get you a little close up of the action itself. Right then, with the plate removed you can see up here the O-ring we need to replace. That one on the front of the pellet probe. So to remove it, what we're going to do is just cock the rifle. I did leave my rifle on safe before we started this, so there's no chance that the rifle's going to go off or anything like that. And what we can do now is remove the O-ring, so I'm just going to use a pair of tweezers, unhook the O-ring, and then hook it over the little pellet probe itself, like so, and then we can pull it out. There it is there. So we're going to be replacing this with a thinner one. So I've got the original O-ring at the top there, and then the replacement at the bottom. So the top one is a 7 by 2.5, and the one we're going to be replacing it with is a 8 by 2. So same OD, but this one is 1/2 mil thinner, and what that should do is hopefully reduce the forward and opening cocking effort. So let's get this one fitted. All I'm going to do before I fit this O-ring is put a tiny hint of silicone grease on it. All this is to do is to stop it from drying out. And what we're going to do is fold it up and poke it behind the pellet probe, like so. So I have been testing this over the weekend. We took it to the range on Saturday, done 500 or so pellets through the rifle, and the O-ring held up beautifully. No problems, it didn't come loose or anything, and most importantly, the cocking arm didn't blow open when it was fired. So whilst we've got the side plate off, I thought I'd show you what it looks like when the action actually fires. So the rifle is pointed in a safe direction against a backstop. We're going to release the safety, like so, and the rifle is now ready to fire. You shouldn't really fire the rifle with the side plate off. It reduces the amount of support this pin has, and if you do it often enough it will wear out, but for one dry fire it's going to be okay. So hopefully you can see that there. There it is. With that all done, we can start the reassembly process. So first of all, we're going to put our cover plate over the front there. Get that on. It's a nice good fit. Then we're just going to replace the screws and the side piece. And I'm going to be doing them up with a 2mm Allen key, although you may need to use a T10. If you do want to replace the screws on your rifle, it's nothing complex. Just take your originals out, measure them, and they're just M3 countersunk screws, nothing special about them. They fit straight in, no modifications needed. And then the safety can go on lastly. Right then guys, with the O-ring replaced, the cocking arm opens and closes nice and freely now. It's really quite easy just to push your finger behind it and lift the cocking handle up. It didn't feel bad before, it was just a little stiff for my liking. And replacing the O-ring has made it nice and free. Now this is a sub 12 rifle obviously, this is sub 12 airgunners. And I'm not sure if I would recommend this modification for FAC rifles, as there's a lot of backwards pressure on the pellet probe that may open the cocking arm as the rifle's fired. Airmaks might have made that O-ring a little thicker, a little stiffer for that very reason. But on a sub 12 rifle there's no sort of bolt flip or cocking arm opening as the rifle's fired. And finally, before we end the video, I just want to point out that I have made a number of replacement cocking handles for the Katran. These just fit in place of the original, and the outer part of them, this part here, rotates. So as you cock the rifle, the outer part rotates. It just makes the cocking feel a little slicker. They're currently listed on eBay, so we've got a black knurled one, a red knurled one, a blue knurled one, and finally a carbon one. On my rifle I've just made a laminate one to go with the laminate stock. Right then guys, that's going to about do it for this one. So I hope you enjoyed the video. A little bit of a different camera angle here for you today. I'm trying out new things. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.